They called me crazy, dramatic, even dangerous, just because I wouldn't vote the way they wanted. I remember the last Thanksgiving. The air had turned colder, not just outside, but around that family dinner table. My sister pushed her wine glass aside, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, Asterisk, if you don't support what we support, you're not part of this family. Asterisk, the others nodded. No one defended me. Not even the cousin I once helped out of debt. That night, I was effectively disowned, not because I hurt anyone, not because I failed them, but because I dared to think differently. They cut me off over politics. So, I cut them out financially. But what they didn't know was who I had become. Back then, I was still wearing worn-out sneakers, the same coat I'd used when I was homeless 10 years ago. I never talked about the company I built from scratch, the real estate I slowly acquired, or the stock portfolios I'd quietly grown. I kept it low-key. I let them believe I was still scraping by. I didn't need to prove anything, until they pushed me too far. For years, I listened quietly as they mocked people who thought like me. Ignorant, they said. Backwards. When I brought up ideas, they'd laugh them off, call me naive. But I let it go. I kept attending the birthday parties, quietly slipping $100 bills into my nephew's hand when his dad lost his job. I paid for grandma's medication under an anonymous name because her children refused to pitch in. But loyalty has limits. And when mine snapped, it snapped clean. What they never understood is that power doesn't always scream. It whispers. I whispered when I bought the deed to my parents' house, saving it from foreclosure under a shell company's name. I whispered when I quietly became the largest silent investor in my brother-in-law's startup, watching from the shadows as he praised some mystery backer in interviews. I whispered when I paid the taxes they ignored, when I cleared debts they pretended didn't exist. They never saw the hand that fed them, only the hand that dared to vote differently. The night they cut ties with me, I walked out of that house with nothing but my pride and a plan. I stopped funding the trust fund my niece had no idea I created for her. Froze the angel investments I'd made into my cousin's failing business. Sold the house my parents lived in, the same one they thought they owned free and clear. I transferred it to a veterans foundation. Gave my shares in the family company to a charity that supported free speech and entrepreneurship. The silence that followed was deafening. Calls came pouring in. Not with apologies, but with outrage. How dare I? How could I be so vindictive? Suddenly, I wasn't the political pariah. I was the villain. But I never raised my voice. I let the actions speak. What stung them most wasn't the money. It was realizing they never knew who I truly was. They thought they were punishing a nobody. But I was never a nobody. I was the architect of their comfort. And I was done building castles for people who wanted to exile the king. Weeks passed. I received letters, some begging, some threatening. I ignored them all, until I got one that stopped me cold. It was handwritten, shaky. From Grandma. She didn't talk politics. Never did. She just wrote, Asterisk, I don't care who you vote for. I just miss your voice at the dinner table. Asterisk. I stared at that note for a long time. I didn't go back to the table. But I invited her to mine. Bought her a small home near the coast, where the sunsets looked like fire melting into the sea. She never asked where the money came from. Just smiled and said thank you. And then came the twist they never expected. I live-streamed a podcast, my first public appearance in years. Just my voice, no face. I shared the full story. How I built a life from the streets, helped a family who never really saw me, and how they discarded me over a bumper sticker's worth of beliefs. The video exploded overnight. Rags to riches in silence trended globally. My inbox filled with stories from people abandoned by family over politics. I wasn't alone, and neither were they. By the end of the month, I launched a new fund, the Bridge Grant, helping entrepreneurs who've been ostracized, canceled, or written off because of their beliefs. I never mentioned my family by name, but they knew. And they watched from the sidelines as the person they wrote off became a lifeline for thousands. Funny, isn't it? They cut me off to silence me. But their silence gave me the loudest voice I've ever had. And yet, there's one door I never closed. Grandma's house still has a guest room. Her porch light is always on. Because forgiveness, like truth, doesn't scream either. It waits. Quietly. Maybe someday someone will knock. Maybe not. But the next Thanksgiving? I won't be missing a seat at the table. I built my own. And this time, everyone's welcome, if they come with open hands, not closed minds. My family cut me off over politics, so I cut them out financially, is more than a story of revenge. It's a reminder. Never underestimate the quiet one at the table. They might own the house you're eating in,